And thank you so much for joining me for some fun Saturday night crafting. Tonight's video, I got really carried away. I was going to do this for a Wednesday midweek video, but because I had so much fun with it and I got so into it, it's now ended up as a Saturday night video. Now this is a really easy card project. I'm going to share with you the basic instructions, the basic measurements, and how you can jazz that up, as well as some stepped up versions. So these are all the cards that I've made currently, including an invite for my son's birthday party, which is that Minecraft one there on the top right. They are quick, they are easy, they're really simple. You don't have to have dies to create the projects. And they're just a load of fun. So I'm just sharing with you some of the cards that I've already made and how it kind of looks. It's like a little pop-up interactive card. But it is so quick and easy that you will have a blast making these, and you'll probably go a little overboard like I have and just create a few too many. In today's video, I'm going to share with you two different sizes of cards. So I have a 4x6 inch card and a 4x4 inch card, but you will have the ability to create whatever size you kind of like using the basic measurements that I'll provide for you in the video. So the 4x6 cards fit beautifully in a UK size A6 envelope, and the 4x4 ones obviously you'll want to have a smaller envelope probably for those to go into. Of course, bump on some extra writing space onto the back of our cards so that we can leave a message. Now with my son's birthday invites, here's my big stack of them pretty much ready to go. For his birthday invites, I wanted to include a secret little surprise. So all the cards do lie completely flat when you go to put them into an envelope. However, you have the option to add in little extra dimensional bits, and they will be a little bit bumpy, but it's not going to matter too much. When it pops up, it looks really cool. So in my son's birthday invites, I'm sticking these little hidden bunny rabbits behind the little pop-up feature, and I've got like the little Minecraft sticker thing that I've printed off the internet there. I've also die cut using my Cricut some Minecraft swords with some papers I found online that I downloaded and printed. You really can go to town making a whole bunch of these cool cards, and you can really personalize them as well. So here's that little invite bit. So instead of having a message space on the back of the card, I've got the invite details on the back of the card. This is also an amazing project to go through your stash and use up what you've got. I have got all these little embellishments, die cuts, ephemera that I've collected over the years, and they are fantastic for using on your cards to decorate around your pop open circle bit. It is fantastic for any of your designer papers that you've got floating around. You do need it to be 12 by 12. Our key focus for this project is using 12 by 12 paper, or at least have one side be 12 inches long. So again, a great way to use up the pattern papers. If you don't have pattern papers, or you've got a stamp set you really want to use, grab a sheet of white cardstock or colored cardstock and stamp on some patterns and create your own background designer papers. So you should have something in your stash that you can take and use towards this project and create something cool. Now if you're crafting with me on Saturday night, you know I'm having a glass of wine and I'm having a fantastic time. So make sure you grab your drink and let's get started. We're going to start with the very basic base. This is such a simple thing, and we can get 3 cards out of one sheet of 12 by 12 cardstock. Our score line measurements will stay the same for every single card, but we can change the height of the card. So these score line measurements I'm going to give you, which I'll put in the description box as well, are your core measurements. And you want to use those on each of your cards to get a really nice look. Now I've got a cutting blade and I've got a scoring blade, and so when you see me use the brown one, that's cutting my paper. When you see me use the white one, that is scoring. So you want to make sure that blade stays out of the way if you've got this similar kind of paper trimmer, because you don't want to cut your paper when you're wanting to score it. Now I'm going to flip it over just so you can see my score lines and kind of where my measurements are, and the pattern paper hopefully isn't too crazy and busy. So we are starting by scoring at 4 inches. Going to move our paper across, score again at 7, and we're going to score at 8, and we're going to score at 11. So 4, 7, 8, and 11 inches. And if you do this on 12 by 12 paper, you don't have to think about anything, just score those 4 score measurements and you are sorted. Those are your core scoring measurements for every card we're going to make today. When you've got those score marks in, you're going to flip your cardstock the other direction so that the lines are going left to right, not up and down. We're going to stick in our paper, and this is where we're going to create the height of the card, and I'm going to trim it to 4 inches, which will give me a 4 by 4 inch card base when I'm done. That gives us 3 awesome cards, no wastage at all. So really quick to make these bulk, because you can use up that 12 by 12 cardstock or paper. Now, if you enjoy my content and you're enjoying this video tonight, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you are a subscriber, would you do me a huge favor and just double check you're still subscribed to my channel? I've been getting messages from a few people saying, oh, I'm not getting any notifications of your videos, and then they're realizing they're no longer subscribed. So if you wouldn't mind just double checking for me, I would really greatly appreciate it. So here's the next one where we're going to change up the size. This is what I was just briefly talking about. So we are going to do the exact same core measurements, and we're going to do the same score lines, and we are going to get a card that can either be a portrait or a landscape, whichever you prefer. Now you do want to think about your pattern paper if you're going to do this and work out which direction you want your pattern paper to go. In my case, it doesn't matter at all which way I go with my measurements, so I'm just going to crack on, and I'll do my score lines first. So I'm going to score at 4, 7, 8, and 11 inches. So exact same measurements as the first card. We're just going to score them the same place. When we're done our score lines, we can just turn it the other direction and cut it right at 6 inches, which gives us exactly in half. And now we have 2 identical cards, and they are 4 by 6 inches, which will fit beautifully into a nice envelope. Now, obviously, you could do whatever size you like. If you like a 5 by 4 inch card, then you could cut it at 5 inches and get 2 cards with a little bit of wastage on the side, which you could use as an embellishment on another card. So here you can see you can either go with portrait or landscape. Now we're going to get started on the basic instructions on how you're going to put it together. We start by folding over that front cover flap, which will be 4 by 4 inches. Then we're going to take the back panel flap, which has got our score lines across it. We're going to line it up with the score line to the left and then fold it down so that we can make sure that that flap covers our card and folds flat. Sometimes our measurements might not be quite so exact. And then when we fold that top panel over, it kind of bubbles up underneath. So you want to just make sure that you put that crease line down with that front cover over it already so that you can have a nice flat fold. So here's the base of our design. We've got 1 inch on each side, the left and the right, which make up our sort of pop-up element. For my project today, I'm using this punch, which is 2 1/4 inches circle. I will link it down below for you if I can still find it. You could also use metal dies. I like the punch because I can line it up exactly the same every single time. But obviously, if you want to change up your shape for your background in your project, you could also use dies and do different shape dies, which I'll share with you in just a minute. If you don't have dies and you don't have punches, you could always go old school, find something round, trace around it, get your scissors out, and cut out your circle. That's a really easy way to go, but I do like using punches for projects like this. I find it is really quick and really easy. So nicely, my punch fits right into that little rectangular piece. So I just line it straight up in there with those sides where my score lines are, right in the middle every time, and I push it all the way down as far as it will go, and then I've got a nice circle right there in the right place. So if you want to change where your sentiment might go or what you're doing with your card, you can always punch from the bottom, not the top, and you get these 2 different kind of looks. So think about what you want to do with it, if you want a sentiment to go on it, if you want to embellish it with flowers around the edge, and whether you need that space there or not. If you're using dies, you could just go for the center. Now I want to line my little back panel there. That's going to be behind my circle. I really like adding that little extra layer. I feel like it gives a bit more of a different color and a bit of a different contrast. If it's pattern paper, then it helps to cover that up a bit. So obviously that is a 4 inch by 3 inch rectangle because we've got 1 inch on either side for those little pop-up flaps to go. So you want to measure yourself a little strip of card that is 4 by 3. Now, the secret trick here to getting things lined up beautifully in the middle, if you want to have it look totally symmetrical when you look through that little pop-up bit, is to then cut yourself an exact panel the same size as that back panel, which is also the same size as the top where we put the hole punch through. So we're going to cut another piece that's 4 by 3 inches. We can then put that through our punch, push it all the way in again, because that's what we did when we punched it through the card. So you're going to put it all the way through, make sure it's nice and level on both sides, and punch. And now we've got a template that we can use for all of our cards so that when we put that element on the inside, we can line it up exactly central as to where the punch is on the outside. I hope that makes sense to you. So there's a little template, and that's ready to go if we want to stamp or embellish the center of that where we're going to look through. So I'm going to go ahead and glue my little panel down to the base of my card in that middle back section, and I'm just using liquid glue because I can wiggle it around a bit and stick it down. So now we've got our back panel ready to go. We can go ahead and stamp on it if we want. So I've got a happy birthday set from Catherine Pooler, and I'm going to go ahead and just use my template to work out which stamps will fit right nice in that center circle. You also could go a little bit bigger than that circle because when you look through the circle, you can see quite a bit. So I'm going to take my template, put it back on top with it in my stamp platform, put my words in the middle there and line them up nice and central so that they're nice and central and lined up with the outside circle that will go over top of it. So now you can see we've got that beautiful 2U lined up nice and central inside our card. Now let's say you want a different bit of contrast, you want a different color underneath there. You can just take a scrap bit of cardstock, punch out a circle, then go ahead and stamp your sentiment nice and central onto that circle, and then you can pop that circle inside your card so that when you look through you can see that there's a pink background but you've got a little gray circle. If you wanted to jazz it up a little bit more, you could also punch out a slightly larger circle or cut out a slightly larger circle, back it onto some different color contrasting cardstock, and you could put that behind as well. For a bit of character and dimension, you could also go ahead and add on some foam squares and make that pop a little bit. The foam dimension actually doesn't warp your card or make it go bumpy at all very much because it is quite a thin amount of foam that you put on the back. So when you fold it, it still folds nice and beautifully shut and it still looks 4x4 when you're done. So you can go ahead and put some foam on the back, line up your template on the background, pop it over top, and then now you've got a little bit of a popped up element on a contrasting bit of cardstock underneath the original circle. So it looks gorgeous when it's all done, and the last steps of it are quite easy. Now here's the point where you'd want to decorate the front. You want to add on any elements you want to put on. You want to do that at this point before you go ahead and close it together. It does make it really tricky to decorate because it's not a flat surface then when you're going to add on those elements. So here's the point where we could go and take some die cuts. We could go and take some of our embellishments that we've already got, maybe some beautiful sentiments that you have lying around, and we could go ahead and stick those on the front. Now I'm going to share with you how you're going to close it up, but I will decorate this one and just kind of share with you a quick way to finish it off as well. So all you want to do is take your flap, fold it over, add some liquid adhesive, or you could use a tape runner if that's what you've got, and you can either fold it from the right to the left, or you could fold it from the left to the right. Either way works. I find going from the left over to the right much easier, but as long as that adhesive is facing up and that front panel is nice and flat and pressured onto it, it's quite easy to do. So now I'm just going to add this happy birthday onto the front and a little panel on the back, which again is the same size, 3 by 4 inches, for my message to go as my greeting to that person. Now I do apologize as well because I forgot that I was so zoomed in, and it's actually a bit tricky to see the front of my card from this little point here because I'm a little bit out of camera reach. But here's where you could write your message, and I just cut it exactly to 4 by 3. And on the front I've got my happy birthday with my little die cut, and then on the inside to you. I could obviously also go ahead and add some flowers something around that circle to kind of make it stand out a bit more. Now we could go ahead and use different shapes. So we have our basic one, which is the circle here. We could also come in and we could use maybe something like flower dies or oval dies. This is where dies would come in handy, or if you've got different shaped punches. With a set of dies, it's really nice and easy to create a frame for your die cut as well, and that can add a really nice element to your card. Now I'm just taking some cardstock from in my stash and finding colors that match and coordinate with my designer papers. I really wanted to add a panel to the section I was going to die cut, and given this is nice thin cardstock and the cardstock I'm working with is quite thin, I know my dies will easily cut through both layers. So I go ahead and add on my first panel with a bit of liquid glue, and I need to let that dry before I go and die cut it out to avoid any wrinkling or creasing. So while I'm waiting for that to dry out, I thought I would share my little glue holder with you. I've shared this in a couple videos with you, but I really went to town and decided I wanted to add a bit of an aged distress look to mine. So it comes as just a plain wood standard holder that you can kind of piece together. I'll link it down below if you want to check it out. My friend Zoe and her husband create these in their woodshop workshop, and they have a nice little shop online, and they do ship all over the world. So thank you to all the friends that went and purchased them the last time I shared them. They had so many orders to fulfill. It was really awesome. But I wanted to share with you that you can paint yours as well. So I painted mine white, and then I distressed it by using some sandpaper over the top, and I absolutely love it. And it holds my glue and keeps that glue fresh and ready to go. Back to my card. When I'm ready, I'm going to put that die on top, and I'm going to make sure that my tape, my low tack tape, is positioned on the inside of my die, so I don't get any dents from the die cut on the outside, or any dents from the tape on the outside of my die cut, I should say. It will fit beautifully in a Big Shot, a standard Big Shot plate, because it is 6 inches, and the plates are generally just over 6 inches wide, so you can run that end through your die cut machine. I'm going to take a darker coordinating color from the same paper pack and create myself a nice little frame by putting the two together and running it through my Big Shot. So now I've got this gorgeous little frame on the middle of my card. Now I was trying to think of what to make, because I decided I really wanted this card to be for my mother-in-law. She's popped down for about half a week to come and help us out and stay with us while we've got a few appointments going on this week, and so I wanted to give her a little thank you card to say that I appreciate her and all she's doing. So for my front of my panel, I decided that I wanted to emboss a piece of the same color cardstock that I used for my outline, or for my frame on the inside of the card, so that it could kind of coordinate all together. Now I wanted to add some gems to this front little oval, and so that's why I put the gorgeous new holographic cardstock that I've got in my collection behind that embossed panel. So here are some gems. These are ancient. I don't even have a clue where they came from, but they are all stuck together, and I love a good little strip of gems. So I stuck a strip down along the bottom and a strip along the top. This stamp is from Pretty Gets Gritty's Dirty Gertie, and it is really awesome. It gives you a whole bunch of fun descriptions and definitions for various women in your life, and so you could go ahead and pick out which woman you want and then a definition to go with it. I wanted to make this element pop up a bit more on my card and stand out a little bit more, so I decided to use some foam tape along the back of it, and that brings it off the card just a bit more, and then you can really appreciate and see all the definition from the embossing folder underneath. Now to finish it off, I wanted to add a fun, more 3D-like element in the middle. Because I can't actually get some flowers, I thought I would put a flower inside the card for her. So there we are. I put the glue on the left side of the panel and then closed it on the top, and that allowed that glue to sit perfectly and that panel to sit perfectly exactly where it should go. And now when she opens it, she can see the beautiful little flower on the inside. My flowers are from AliExpress, by the way. I order in bulk all the time. I love getting flowers for cards. Now our fourth way of doing this is we can add easy layers that will keep our card still nice and flat and will fit in the envelope just fine. So if you've got vellum or acetate, this is a great way to kind of make it look like you've got a floating element inside your card, and it is quick and it is easy and not difficult to do. So here on this one, I haven't finished the front of it yet, but I added a little bird on the inside to the acetate, and it kind of looks like it's floating over the background. And on this one I used vellum, and I've got that flower in there, so it gives you a really big pop-up feature, but brings that flower a bit closer to the front. So the quick and easy way to do this is take your piece of vellum or your acetate, and we are going to cut that down to 4 by 4 inches. Now obviously if you're doing the larger one, it's going to be 4 inches by 6 inches. We are then going to score it at 1/2 inch from each side, and that will allow us to line it up exactly halfway along each side of that back panel. You'll see what I mean in a second. It sounds dead confusing right now, but it will make sense. So cut your piece to 4 by 4, and on one of the 4 inch sides you are going to score it at 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch on the other side. Now when working with vellum, be very careful not to put too much pressure with your score blade, because it does go through really quick and rip it really quick. So here you can see I've got 1/2 inch on the right, 1/2 inch on the left before I hit that score line and before I hit the end of the card. We're going to fold over our score lines and crease them nice and crisply. This will help us to adhere it in our card. I find it most easiest if when you're applying this inner layer, if you do the outside edge first before you do the inside. So I'm taking my red line tape, which is like a super duper sticky glue tape. It's almost like the super glue of sticky tape. So you can't rip it, you've got to cut it with scissors. What I'm going to do here, you can see me lining up right with the very edge of my card. So just get it nice and perfect with that edge, give it a nice firm press. Then you're going to fold it slightly over and so that you can meet that edge to the inside. I find the outside to the inside the easiest. You can do it whichever way you like, but I do find it really hard to get that outside edge if I've done the inside first. So I do the outside and then do the inside. Then you're going to go ahead and do the same thing you've done before and put the glue on. But if you're going to add the elements in the middle and you want to decorate it, obviously decorate it first, stamp it first before you stick it inside. I should have said that before, sorry. You've got your template ready to go. Go ahead and decorate, stick whatever you want onto that central bit before you stick it into your panel, and then obviously before you glue this edge here. I just wanted to share with you how you can kind of create the card without having to go into full detail, because I am aware it has been absolutely ages of me yabbering away to you, showing you all these different ways to create this card. So there you have how you do the vellum one. The acetate is exactly the same, you're just using acetate instead of vellum. If you've stuck it out with me tonight for this long, 21 minutes in, I am so grateful. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and give it a go yourself. It really is so simple and easy to do, and the measurements are so basic and simple as well. So thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope you have a fantastic weekend, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care and have a lovely night. Bye.